Rain hammered the roof of Ethan's rusted Chevy, each drop a reminder of the life he'd lost. At 23, he'd traded a cozy college dorm for this cramped back seat, his only shelter from San Francisco's biting chill. He clutched a crumpled photo of his parents, their faces frozen in a happier time, before their rejection had driven him here. Ethan's stomach growled as he stared out the fogged window, the city's neon lights blurring into a kaleidoscope of regret. He'd come to San Francisco seeking freedom, chasing the promise of a place where he could be himself, a gay man with dreams bigger than the small Ohio town that had spit him out. But freedom came at a cost. His savings were gone, his job at the coffee shop barely covered gas, and the weight of his family's rejection pressed harder than the cold. He traced the photo's edges, whispering, "I'm still here, Mom. Dad." They hadn't spoken since he came out at 18, their silence louder than the sermons they'd quoted. Ethan had fled to the West Coast, hoping to find a community, a purpose. Instead, he found himself parked in this alley, invisible to the world, wondering if he'd made a terrible mistake. Across town, James Whitaker sipped bourbon in his penthouse, the city sprawling beneath him like a glittering chessboard. At 52, he'd built an empire, real estate, tech investments, a name that opened doors. But tonight, his mind wasn't on deals or dollars. It was on Ethan, his late sister's son, the nephew he hadn't seen in years. James had always been the cool uncle, the one who'd sneak Ethan extra cookies at family gatherings, who'd listen when his sister and her husband grew too strict. But after their falling out, after Ethan's coming out and the family's fracture, James had lost touch. Guilt gnawed at him. He'd heard whispers. Ethan had left Ohio, dropped out of college, vanished into the ether. James had tried calling, but the number was dead. Where was he? The answer came by chance. That evening, James had been driving through the Mission District, scouting a new property, when he spotted a familiar figure hunched in a car. Ethan. His heart lurched. The boy he'd once known, all bright eyes and big dreams, was living in a car, surrounded by trash bags and tattered blankets. James parked, his polished shoes splashing through puddles as he approached. Ethan didn't notice, lost in his thoughts, until a knock on the window startled him. He froze, expecting trouble, a cop, a thief. Instead, he saw James, his uncle's face etched with shock and something deeper, sorrow. "Ethan," James's voice cracked through the glass. "What the hell is going on?" Ethan's pulse raced. He hadn't seen James in years, hadn't expected him to care. "I'm fine," he lied, his voice hoarse. "Just figuring things out." James's eyes scanned the car, empty coffee cups, a worn jacket, a life reduced to scraps. "You're not fine. Open the door." Reluctantly, Ethan complied. The rain poured in, soaking his sleeves as James slid into the passenger seat. The silence was heavy, broken only by the storm outside. Ethan braced for judgment, for the same rejection he'd faced before. But James didn't lecture. He didn't preach. He just looked at Ethan, really looked, and said, "You're coming with me." Ethan laughed, bitter. "To what? Your fancy penthouse? I don't need pity, Uncle James." "It's not pity," James snapped, his voice firm but warm. "It's family. You're my nephew, and I'll be damned if I let you live like this." Ethan wanted to argue, to push back, but exhaustion won. He nodded, grabbing his backpack, and followed James into the night. The city lights flickered, a promise of something new, but Ethan couldn't shake the fear that this was just another fleeting moment before the world turned cold again. They drove in silence to James's building, a sleek tower overlooking the bay. Ethan felt out of place in the marble lobby, his damp sneakers squeaking on the floor. In the elevator, James broke the quiet. "Why didn't you call me? I would have helped." Ethan stared at his feet. "Didn't think you'd want to. After Mom and Dad, I figured you'd take their side." James's jaw tightened. "I'm not them. I never was." In the penthouse, Ethan stood awkwardly, clutching his bag like a lifeline. James poured 2 glasses of water, handing one over. You're staying here tonight. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. Ethan sipped, the cold water grounding him. He wanted to believe James, but trust was a luxury he'd run out of long ago. Still, the warmth of the apartment, the soft couch, the absence of rain, it was more than he'd had in months. For the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of hope. But hope was dangerous. Ethan knew the world didn't change overnight. He'd learned that the hard way, through slammed doors and hateful words. As he lay on the guest room's plush bed, staring at the ceiling, he wondered, was this a new beginning, or just another chapter in a story that always ended the same? Morning light streamed through the penthouse windows, painting the room gold. Ethan woke, disoriented, the softness of the bed foreign after months of curling up in his car. For a moment, he thought it was a dream, until James's voice called from the kitchen, "Coffee's ready." Ethan shuffled out, his hoodie wrinkled, his eyes wary. James stood at the counter, flipping pancakes, his tailored shirt swapped for a casual sweater. The normalcy of it unnerved Ethan. He wasn't used to kindness without strings. "Sit," James said, sliding a plate across. "We need to talk." Ethan obeyed, picking at the food. "About what?" "About you. What happened, Ethan? You were in college, had a scholarship. Now you're—" James trailed off, gesturing vaguely. "Homeless." Ethan finished, his tone sharp. "Say it." "I'm not ashamed." James winced. "I'm not judging. I just want to understand." Ethan set down his fork, the weight of the past pressing in. "Mom and Dad found out I was gay. They gave me an ultimatum. Fix it, or get out." I chose to leave. His voice trembled, but he pushed on. College was fine until the money ran out. I couldn't keep up with tuition, rent, everything. So I dropped out. Been surviving since. James listened, his face unreadable. When Ethan finished, he leaned back, exhaling. "I should have been there. I didn't know it was that bad." "You couldn't have," Ethan said, softer now. "I didn't tell anyone." James stood, pacing. "That changes now. You're not going back to that car. You're staying here until we sort this out." Ethan's defenses flared. "I don't need a savior, James. I've been fine on my own." "Fine." James's voice rose, then softened. "Ethan, you're family. You don't have to do this alone." The words hit harder than Ethan expected. He wanted to believe them, but fear lingered. What if James changed his mind? What if this was temporary? He'd been burned before. James seemed to sense it. "I'm not promising a fairy tale," he said, "but I'm here. Let me help." Ethan nodded, unsure but willing to try. That day, James took him shopping, new clothes, a phone, basics Ethan hadn't had in months. It felt surreal, like stepping into someone else's life. But James didn't stop there. He introduced Ethan to his assistant, Maria, who helped set up a bank account and enroll in community college classes. "Small steps," James said. "You're rebuilding." By evening, Ethan sat in James's study, scrolling through course options. For the first time, he felt a spark of possibility. But doubt crept in. Could he really start over? And what did James want in return? That night, James invited Ethan to a charity gala, a glitzy event for San Francisco's elite. Ethan hesitated. His new clothes felt like a costume, and he didn't belong among the city's power players. But James insisted. "You're not hiding anymore." At the gala, Ethan felt like an imposter, surrounded by champagne flutes and polished smiles. Then he met Leo, a young artist with a warm laugh and a rainbow pin on his lapel. Leo was everything Ethan wasn't: confident, open, proud. They talked for hours about art, dreams, the struggle of being queer in a world that didn't always understand. "You're new to this, huh?" Leo said, nodding at Ethan's nervous glances. "It gets easier. Find your people, and it's like finding home." Ethan's heart raced. Leo's words, his ease, stirred something he hadn't felt in years: connection. As the night ended, Leo slipped him his number. "Call me," he said with a grin. "You look like you could use a friend." Back at the penthouse, Ethan lay awake, Leo's number burning a hole in his pocket. James had given him a roof, a chance. Leo had given him something else, a glimpse of a life where he could be himself, unapologetically. But the past still loomed, a shadow Ethan couldn't outrun. Could he trust this new world, or was it all too good to be true? Weeks passed, and Ethan settled into a fragile rhythm. James's penthouse became a sanctuary, though Ethan still felt like a guest in his own life. He started classes, graphic design, something he'd always loved but never pursued. The work was hard, but it lit a fire in him, a purpose he'd almost forgotten. Leo became a constant, too. They met for coffee, then dinners, then long walks through the city's vibrant streets. Leo's confidence was contagious, his stories of coming out and building a life as an artist inspiring Ethan to dream again. One night, under the glow of the Castro's rainbow flags, Leo took Ethan's hand. "You're allowed to be happy, you know," he said. Ethan's breath caught. Happiness felt like a foreign language, but with Leo, he was learning to speak it. Their first kiss, soft and tentative, was a rebellion against the years of shame. For the first time, Ethan felt seen, not as a failure, a runaway, or a burden, but as himself. But shadows lingered. Ethan's parents called, their number flashing on his new phone like a warning. He ignored it, but the voicemails piled up, each one a mix of guilt and accusation. "Come home," his mother pleaded. "We can fix this." His father's voice was colder. "You're breaking your mother's heart." Ethan deleted the messages, but they left scars. He confided in James, expecting judgment. Instead, James hugged him, fierce and protective. "They don't get to define you," he said. "You're building something better." James's support was unwavering, but Ethan sensed tension. James was hiding something: late-night calls, hushed conversations with Maria. One evening, Ethan overheard him on the phone. "I don't care about the cost. Find him a place, somewhere safe." Ethan's stomach dropped. Was James planning to send him away? He confronted James that night. "Are you kicking me out?" James looked stunned. "What? No. I'm setting up an apartment for you. A place of your own, when you're ready." "I thought," he paused, rubbing his neck. "I thought you'd want independence." Ethan's relief was tinged with guilt. He'd misjudged James, assumed the worst. "I'm sorry," he said. I'm not used to people helping without wanting something back." James's eyes softened. "All I want is for you to be okay. To be you." The next day, Ethan met Leo at a gallery opening, his art on display. Leo's paintings were bold, vivid, a celebration of identity. Ethan felt a surge of pride, but also fear. Leo was so sure of himself, while Ethan still wrestled with doubt. Could he ever be that free? As they left the gallery, a man approached, tall, broad, with a sneer Ethan recognized from his Ohio days. "Fags," the man spat, shoving past. Ethan froze, the word a knife to his chest. Leo grabbed his hand, pulling him away. "Ignore him," Leo said, but Ethan's heart pounded. The hate wasn't new, but it hurt more now, when he was starting to believe in something better. That night, Ethan told James about the incident. James's face darkened. "That's not your burden to carry," he said. "But I won't lie, it's out there. You're stronger than it, Ethan." Ethan wanted to believe him, but the encounter shook him. He started noticing the stares, the whispers, the subtle ways the world reminded him he didn't fit. Even in San Francisco, freedom wasn't free. He threw himself into his studies, his art, his time with Leo, but the fear lingered. Was he strong enough for this world? Ethan's world expanded, but so did its challenges. His design classes pushed him to create, to pour his pain and hope into every project. His professor, Ms. Carter, saw potential, encouraging him to submit a piece for a citywide art contest. "You've got a voice," she said. "Use it." Ethan hesitated. His art was personal, raw, a series of digital sketches depicting his journey, from the car to the Castro's vibrant streets. Submitting felt like bearing his soul. Leo pushed him. "Your story matters," he said. Show them who you are. With Leo's encouragement, Ethan entered the contest. The waiting was agony, but when the results came, he'd won a small cash prize and a showcase at a local gallery. For the first time, Ethan felt like he belonged, like his pain had purpose. But the victory was bittersweet. His parents' calls grew more frequent, their messages sharper. "You're living in sin," his father said in one. "Come back, or you're no son of ours." Ethan's hands shook as he deleted it. He wanted to scream, to tell them he was finally living, not just surviving. But the words wouldn't come. James noticed the change in Ethan, quiet, withdrawn. One night, he sat him down. "Talk to me," he said. "What's going on?" Ethan broke, spilling everything. The calls, the hate, the fear he wasn't enough. James listened, then pulled out a photo album. Inside were pictures of Ethan as a kid, laughing with James at the beach, at Christmas. "This is who you are," James said. Not their words, not their hate. Ethan cried, the weight of years pouring out. James held him, an anchor in the storm. "You're not alone," James whispered. "Not anymore." The gallery showcase arrived, a whirlwind of nerves and excitement. Ethan's art hung alongside others, his sketches drawing whispers and nods. Leo stood by his side, beaming. "You did this," he said. "You're incredible." But the night took a turn. Ethan's parents showed up, uninvited, their faces stern. They'd tracked him down through a friend, driven by a mix of guilt and desperation. "Ethan," his mother said, her voice trembling, "we want you to come home." Ethan's heart raced. The gallery buzzed around them, oblivious to the drama unfolding. "Home?" he said, his voice steady despite the chaos inside. "This is my home now. I'm not broken." His father stepped forward, anger flashing. "You're throwing your life away for this lifestyle." James intervened, his voice calm but steel. "Enough. He's your son, not your property. You don't get to control him." The room felt suffocating. Ethan's mother reached for him, tears in her eyes. "We love you," she said. "We just want what's best." Ethan's throat tightened. "Then let me be me." They left, the silence deafening. Leo squeezed Ethan's hand, grounding him. The showcase continued, but Ethan felt raw, exposed. Had he lost his parents for good? Months later, Ethan stood in his new apartment, a small but bright space James had secured. It was his, rent paid for a year, a gift from his uncle. Ethan's art adorned the walls, a testament to his journey. He was still in school, still with Leo, still building a life he'd never dared dream of. The confrontation with his parents lingered, but it had freed something in him. He'd spoken his truth, and though they hadn't called since, he felt lighter. He wasn't waiting for their approval anymore. He was enough. James visited often, their bond stronger than ever. One evening, over pizza, James shared his own story, a life of success but also loneliness, a man who'd prioritized work over love. "You've reminded me what matters," James said. "Family. Connection." Ethan smiled, grateful. James hadn't just given him a home. He'd given him a chance to rebuild, to love himself. Leo had done the same, their relationship a quiet strength. They weren't perfect. Ethan still wrestled with doubt, and Leo had his own struggles, but together, they were unstoppable. The art contest led to more opportunities, a commission for a local mural, a mentorship with Ms. Carter. Ethan's work began to reflect not just pain, but hope, love, resilience. He painted for himself, for Leo, for every kid who'd ever felt unwanted. One spring day, Ethan and Leo walked through the Castro, hand in hand. A pride flag waved above, vibrant against the sky. Ethan thought of the car, the rain, the despair. It felt like another life. He wasn't that boy anymore. He stopped, pulling Leo close. "Thank you," he said, "for seeing me." Leo grinned. "Always." As they walked on, Ethan glanced back at the flag, its colors a promise. He'd found his people, his purpose, his home. And though the world still had its shadows, Ethan knew he could face them. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living.